Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. On this week's episode, we are taking a look at your favorite sports movies as our Real Sports series continues, looking at movies you may or may not have seen in the world of sports. Today, we're going to be talking about a special little movie known as The Peanut Butter Falcon. Zach runs away from his care home to make his dream of becoming a wrestler come true. John, this is quite a unique movie, I would say. It's not the normal sports movie. It ties in loosely. I wanted to cover this because it does tie into our sports theme. It's not exactly the definition of a sports movie. I probably wouldn't even honestly classify it as a sports movie. But I think it does tie into that little bit of that theme that we go through sports.
Yeah, I think it's you can consider it a sports movie because it's got some sports stuff in it. But I feel like the main reason for this movie is based on wrestling,
right,
and an adventure that this young kid goes through and has to figure out his way through. The story of like friendship is more important in this movie than the actual sport is per se.
Right. So right off the bat, the first thing I want to say is Shia Labeouf and Zach Gotskin nailed this movie 100%. Their chemistry is so natural and real. I can't remember. It's hard to even find a more recent movie where I felt the chemistry this strong between two people. I would have thought they were, they've known each other their whole lives almost. That's the level of chemistry that I felt in this movie. It's no secret. Zach Gotskin is a young man with Down syndrome in this movie. So to see him performing at this level of acting, I personally feel is just inspirational, to anybody. He acts better than I could even act, and I don't think I could come close to the level this kid has. He's great. And then Shia LaBeouf, coming off a questionable career after Transformers, right? He had some highs, he had some lows. This movie though shows why he excels as an actor lately. I don't know if he just found the right niche for his craft, but he's been rocking it lately. And Peanut Butter Falcon's an excellent example of that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's the one thing about this movie too. Like, you take the cast in consideration in every movie and how they like blend with each other and how they work off one another. And I feel like Shia LaBeouf and Zach are perfect together. Like, they work in harmony almost. And if you didn't know that this was a movie, you would think that this was just a real group of friends together throughout the whole thing, throughout their journey.
Exactly. Everything's so natural. Everything's just so. I feel like it's corny to say, but it really feels. It's a feel good movie all around, right? I could argue it feels great. Going into that though, what does this movie else do that's really well? The issues this movie deals with. It takes the diagnosis of Down syndrome and people that suffer from this, and it shows it in such a different light. I feel like that we're not used to, right? Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of the times we've seen, people with such a disability or such. Sometimes it's played for laughs or unease or downright mean a lot of the times, and I feel like we don't focus on, the person. We only see them for being someone with Down syndrome instead of seeing them being a person. And between the acting and just the messages this movie's putting out there, it's just wonderful.
The fact that he's even just the main character, like you're saying, normally people with Down syndrome would be like an extra or just like a small piece to a movie. But the fact that he's playing the main role in this movie,
right?
I feel like it's actually extraordinary.
No, it
with
is
what he does in this movie,
and it plays it. It goes with the message. Treat people the way you would want to feel treated. Don't treat them as a person with Down syndrome. Treat them as a person. It deals with a lot of, some of the issues people face in the disability community, whether it's getting the proper assistance, the kind of life that they can lead and want to lead, how people treat them is a big thing in this movie. One of my favorite things is actually the way Shia LaBeouf just speaks to Zach throughout this movie as Tyler. He never treats him as someone who, like we've been talking about, he doesn't treat someone with Down syndrome. He treats him as a person. Like if Zach says he can't do something, or Zach says, "Oh, I don't understand that I have Down syndrome," you have Shia LaBeouf go, "So what? Do it. What is holding you back?" That's just an excuse.
Yeah.
Not that it's an excuse, but you're more than that. You're more than this label that society's putting on you. And I really appreciate that message. It's really breakthrough, and I think inspirational to people that think, they can't do something, or they're held back by some kind of disability. I think that's just a really great message to spread to people. Mm-hmm.
It's a label that people put on these people with disability, which is not what they are. They're still people. They're just going through more things than we are, and they can do so many things.
They can be excellent too, right?
There's so much things that people are like, well, this person's disabled, so they're not as smart. But they've done so many studies on people and have realized how intelligent some people with disabilities truly are, and it's amazing the things that they can do when just putting their mind to things.
Right. It's just they may seem different or don't function exactly the same way that we would consider the acceptable social norm. But just because you're not the social norm doesn't mean that you're not special or important in your own right. And that movie really just delivers that message. One of my favorite scenes, absolutely favorite scenes in this movie, is Shia LaBeouf, Zach, and Dakota Johnson, who plays Eleanor. She's the nurse at the home that Zach was staying at. She's trying to find him because Zach ran away. They're on a raft, and they're talking about Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson are talking about Zach, and Shia LaBeouf puts Zach's head underwater because he's training him to become a wrestler, which I think is fantastic. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But he puts his head underwater, and they're talking, and he's like to her, Shia LaBeouf goes to Dakota Johnson, "Why do you talk to him that way?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" He's like, "The way you speak to him." Because throughout the movie, she's just like, "Okay, buddy. I got you, buddy. Okay, no problem. Are you sure? Did you take your pill? Or are you feeling a little cranky?" Not necessarily mean, but almost belittling to him.
Yeah, kind of treating him like he's a child instead of like
treating him differently. And he's like, "Don't treat him that way. He's an adult. Treat him like everybody else. Why are you babying him this way? Why are you treating him differently? He wants to be accepted. He can do things. He's a grown man. Like, don't belittle him just because he has a disability. He's pursuing forward to move on. There's no reason you should be holding him back."
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, and I just think it's such an amazing,
it's a powerful message.
It is, and what we even go into next is the story composition is pretty much a road trip movie overall. Zach breaks out of the old person home because he has to stay there because they don't have enough facilities to house him for his disability. So he has to stay in an old person home, which he knows he doesn't belong there. He's a young man. I got to get the hell out of here. So he breaks out. He's on the run. He meets Shia LaBeouf, who plays Tyler. Tyler's I wouldn't say a very deep character, a little bit, not as deep as you would, I would have expected maybe earlier on in the movie. He's recently suffering from the loss of his brother. He works on a fishing dock. He burns the dock out of spite against these other fishermen who he quote unquote stole from, and he's on the run. Tyler and Zach run into each other, and then the journey begins. Shia LaBeouf, Tyler, is trying to help Zach find a wrestling school. Where Zach wants to become a wrestler because his whole, he has this little VHS tape he's been watching from, I assume it's most of his life, where, he wants to become a wrestler and he's inspired. So that's the journey. And that's what this movie is essentially. It's just their shenanigans from point A to point B. Pretty straightforward. Not bad at all. It's very Huck Finn-esque. Gotta get across the river, and they're in Virginia, the beautiful, beautiful scenery of Virginia. I really love it. I think it's amazing. I wouldn't even say the cinematography is anything special. I would say it's just the setting is beautiful, adventuring, dreamlike, kind of, you know what I mean? It's just very open. So
Yes.
the film wants your mind to be open. I feel like the setting is open to reflect that, and I can appreciate that. I think that's great. So a lot of the questions I would probably get for this movie is, Kevin, why is this in the sport? Why is this in the sports series that you're doing? Wrestling plays a big role, right? Zach wants to become a wrestler. He meets the Salt Water Redneck is his favorite wrestler. He goes to meet him. He finds out there's no longer a wrestling school. The tape was from like the 90s. His wrestling school's been shut down. No longer exists. The guy Saltwater Redneck feels bad for him, so he wants to teach him to become a wrestler, and they do everything. But the interesting fact is this movie specifically chose wrestling to compare to his disability and what he's going through, and I think that's a really beautiful comparison. And again, hear me out. It's a little strange. So, essentially, this movie, Zach keeps saying he wants to be the bad guy in wrestling, right? And the reason he wants to be the bad guy is because he thinks he is the bad guy. People treat him differently. People treat him like he's a monster, and he wants to be the bad guy. And Shia LaBeouf keeps telling him, no, you're not the bad guy. Why do you want to be the bad guy? Like, well, that's what people think of me. He's like, those people are idiots. What's wrong with you? This whole movie, Zach, like a professional wrestler, wants to portray someone that's larger than life and wants everyone to love him. And that's what a wrestler does, right? Every time they go to the ring, they yell to the crowd. They get everyone pumped up. They either want you to love them or hate them. They want that reaction. And Zach's the same way. So it's really beautiful just to see that comparison between the two.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree.
It's just, again, it's odd, right? It's a very odd comparison. Hell, the concept of what is the Peanut Butter Falcon? That's his wrestling persona. They come up when him and Shia LaBeouf and Zach get drunk on a beach, and they're just hanging out and going crazy. They come up with the Peanut Butter Falcon, and when he goes to actually wrestle, he makes like a fake cardboard cutout falcon. And the reaction of the crowd, I think, is priceless, because at first they're like, what the hell is this? And then they just start clapping, and they're like, okay, they can get into it. It's like they feed off his energy, right? They feed off his enthusiasm. And it's a redneck wrestling match where there's like 10 people there, if that. It's perfect for the setting, and like I said, I think that's a beautiful comparison. We don't get, this is a very, whatever you want to say about this movie, I wish there was more like this, where it took that deep thought and just expressed it in this way. I think it's very, very original that way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
But
very well done movie.
No, yeah, overall, I think it's great.
I think it's got a very important story to tell, of like a young kid who probably people never thought would become anything, and he goes through this with a dream in mind, and at the end of the day, or at the end of the movie, he finally realizes that his dream kind of came true, and it just makes you think, like, no matter what you think about, your dreams could eventually come true one day.
And not even that, it's just the power of friendship, like finding that one true friend. Like I said earlier, Shia LaBeouf's character, while arguably not the main character, I would argue he's not like, he is and he isn't. It's a dual role, right, overall. But his whole thing is he lost his brother in a car accident. They were drunk driving. Shia LaBeouf was driving, and he got into a car accident, and his brother died. He was actually played by Shane from The Walking Dead, and he also played the Punisher in Netflix. Fun little character thrown in. Besides that, though, there's a beautiful scene when they're riding down the river, and they're just sitting there. This is after like this crazy inspirational baptism scene. Little high art for my taste, but I get what they're going through, like the whole rebirth, transformation scene. I digress. They're sitting on the raft, and Shia is just remembering his brother, right? He's just remembering those moments, the happiness that they shared, the bond that they shared. And Zach doesn't say anything. He just puts his arm on him, and he understands how he feels. And it's almost like a tear-moving moment in a way, just to see like someone respond to your loss, just know what you're feeling, right? And they don't even know each other that well or that long, but to have that intimate connection with someone where it's like, I'm here for you. Unconditionally, I'm here for you. And that to me is just extremely beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
And for someone that everyone in the Shia LaBeouf respect him so much, even with his disability, not letting that disability hinder his friendship when someone might be more inclined to be like, oh, well, who are you? Get away from me. What's wrong with you? Shia sees him as a person and sees him as someone he can truly trust and loves and cares about. And damn, man, that's just powerful. Overall, it's just very, very powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I could praise this movie all day for its unique characters. There are some negatives. There are some things that we have to talk about a little bit. I the first thing I would say, the ending is a little wonky for me. The first issue I really have with it is it's kind of the fantasy ending. Zach wrestles Jake the Snake Roberts in the movie. Jake the Snake plays somebody else, but they have this wrestling match, and Jake the Snake makes it real, and he's like beating up the kid, and then Zach picks him up like the Ultimate Warrior and throws him out of the ring. The movie did try to like say Zach was really strong throughout the movie, but come on, guys, like that was a little crazy. He just like it looked so hokey and looked corny. Like I know you're trying to be inspirational and all that, but that was a little hokey for me, you know. Just to flat out pick somebody up like Ultimate Warrior and toss him out of the ring. Like, come on. That was a little strange. My other... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, my other thing I would have to say is the ending with Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf eventually gets caught by the bad guys, which is also another negative. These bad guys seemingly can find him out of nowhere all the time. Like, they're always hot on his trail when there's no evidence of that. I don't know what that was about. I guess that's just the plot moving forward, using some movie plot magic. Just, oh, what a coincidence. We were right behind you the whole time, when I don't know how they would have done that or known where they were going, especially going in the water and stuff. I don't know how they found them. I digress again about that. The big thing is, like, Shia LaBeouf gets hit over the head with a pipe, right? It's a pipe or a crowbar, whatever it is. He gets hit over the head. Yeah, he gets hit over the head. You think he's dead. They play it up for drama. Zach's in the hospital with Eleanor, and they're like, oh no, we don't know what's happening. And then you see Zach and Eleanor driving off, and they're going to Florida because that's where Shia LaBeouf wanted to go. And then the movie's about to end, and then Shia LaBeouf just sticks his head up out of the back seat. He's got like a bandage wrapped around his head, and he's fine. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, you're playing with my emotions. I don't know if it would have been stronger if he passed away. I guess they wanted a feel-good ending for this movie. I didn't like that. That was a little cheesy for me. It subverted my expectations in a way, I guess, but it just didn't work for me. I think it would have been better if Shia LaBeouf died and Zach just gained this insight and this life experience from him. I think that would have been more, more inspiration, more of a stronger ending. I think overall.
I gotcha. I understand.
Yeah. How about you? You have any other negatives? I know we were talking about earlier, you were talking about, you thought that was a little long at parts?
I felt like some parts kind of dragged.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of felt like, to me, it felt like it was a little bit longer than it should have been.
Right. I can see that. Mm-hmm.
There's some parts where, like, even when they're just hanging out, they're just kind of, but there's nothing really going on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that kind of didn't add anything to the plot, really.
Okay.
And in a way, it made the movie longer than what I thought it was.
Yeah, I can see that. I agree and I disagree with that. I think the movie does get a little too artsy at times. It's trying to be that indie gem. It's trying to be like, oh, look how artsy we are with our gorgeous cinematography and look at this. Like, even the baptism scene that's in the movie, while I understand why it was in there, it's kind of out of left field at one point. And it's kind of like, I didn't really need that scene for that revelation to happen. I get why it's in there, but again, I think you're just trying to be artsy for the sake of being artsy at times. And, that's not a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at that point, though. We're about to give our final thoughts for this movie. I'm going to give the Peanut Butter Falcon an A-. This movie comes with a high recommendation from me. I think everyone should watch it just to get a better understanding about people with disabilities, how they should be treated. And if you really just want a heartwarming, feel-good movie, I think this would be the movie for you. Wrestling fans, you'll get a quick kick seeing Jake the Snake in there, finally off the drugs and the booze, and a little Mick Foley appearance is always appreciated. Again, did it belong in real sports?
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Did it belong in real sports, our real sports series? I'll leave that to you, the viewers, to decide. I think it was just a fun off-road edition. John, where do you stand with this movie?
I give this movie a B. I felt like the story was all around good. I thought the message in it was a very good message too.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it's just not. I feel like it's one of those movies that I wouldn't totally tell people to go see, but I feel like people should definitely watch this movie. It's a good movie. Definitely a one-time watch, good movie.
Yeah. I think, my personal opinion, I think this is a bit of a gem. I think, it's more of an indie darling. I think people should check it out. It's easily accessible now. I think it's like $7-10 on Blu-ray. It's worth just for the price of that, just order it off Amazon, not affiliated, just to check it out. I think it got snubbed a little. I think there could have been some nods for, some awards. I know earlier in the award season, it did receive some nods. Later, it was ignored, unfortunately. But a really good movie. Great message. Check it out. John?
Definitely.
Where can the people find us at home?
You can find us on YouTube, The Real Movie Guys on YouTube. You can like our channel, subscribe to it, hit the notification bell so you can get notified when we go on, when we put movies out, when we put other things that we may have in the works out too. Also, you can find us on Twitter at The Real Movie Guy. Tweet at us, let us know your opinions on these movies and stuff. We always like to hear from you guys and see what you guys are talking about too. And also, we're located on many podcasting platforms such as...
Yes, for your listening pleasure, we are available in podcast form at iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Overcast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. Be sure to give us a listen at any of those fine places. If you already are right now, hey, we greatly appreciate it. Just search The Real Movie Guys. We should pop right up. Again, thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. That guy over there, he's John. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Thank you for joining us for Real Sports. It's been a great series. Play the game, watch the movies. Catch you next time.
See you.